seen a lot of thoughts regarding Zelda's first foray into her protagonist's role, specifically her lack of the title hero. Something I find all the more curious considering the complaints about Tears of the Kingdom's disregard for the series' lore. Because Zelda in Echoes of Wisdom not only remains consistent to her broader characterization across the mainline games, but she is also a better character because she adheres to her traditional archetype, and isn't simply replacing Link. To understand this, let's talk about the Triforce, Zelda, and why her not being the quote-unquote hero makes her character much more powerful. Some spoilers for Echoes of Wisdom ahead. For the bulk of its history, the Triforce has consisted of 3 pieces, each representing an essence associated with real-world mythological archetypes and a character in the Zelda universe. There's power, embodied positively by a benevolent ruler, but corroded in the Zelda franchise into the Tyrant, usually some iteration of Ganon. Power in the series is most often assigned to evil. It is power usurped, corrupted. Then there's courage, embodied by the hero or warrior, Link. The warrior's fight is out in the world in direct opposition to this evil. In Link, we find the traits of the warrior: skillful with a blade, unrelenting, fiercely loyal. Finally, there is wisdom, embodied by the High Priestess, Zelda, whose fight differs from Link's but is equally necessary. Upon wishing on the Triforce, if one's heart is out of balance, the Triforce will split, its power unattainable, the world cast into darkness. But before we tackle this symbolism, let's talk a little more about Zelda and her archetype. The archetype of the High Priestess comes to us, fittingly, from Arcana, and Zelda shares many traits with this archetype. The arcane is fitting in this instance because the High Priestess is associated with mystery, esoteric knowledge, divination, and connection to higher spiritual planes, and is further associated with magic and its manipulation, the scepter, the moon, water, and the divine law. The High Priestess's journey is subconscious and intuitive, focused inward, solitary, and introspective in order to emerge anew with healing wisdom. A classic example of this is the Greek god Persephone, whose emergence announces spring and summer, but only after a time withdrawn into the underworld. Zelda, who we see physically resembling the High Priestess in her blue robes and A Link to the Past, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, fits many of these traits, wisdom the most immediately recognizable. Her connection to wisdom further connects her to Nehru, the goddess who gave the world its laws and whose symbol is water. Her powers range from telepathy, prophetic visions, light powers, communicating with light spirits, and possessing enemies. She possesses the light force and is both a representative of the goddesses and a reincarnation of Hylia. In Breath of the Wild, her powers only become accessible through intuition, instinctually tapped into when her knight is in peril, not while she tries to call it forth with her conscious, rational mind. This intuitive power appears again in a moment of crisis when she activates her secret stone while falling into darkness. In Echoes of Wisdom, she wields a magic scepter, communes with the goddesses, and along with her ethereal guide, traverses the still world, a sort of underworld in its own right. Unlike Link, she does not fight her battles outwardly and aggressively, but instead turns inward, or to others. In Ocarina of Time, this manifests as subterfuge when she disguises herself as Sheik. In Twilight Princess, her solitude is literal, locked away in the castle tower, but unaffected by the veil of twilight, eventually sacrificing her physical form to save Midna. In Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, her solitude is self-imposed and metaphorical, outside of the conscious realm, locked sleeping in a crystal to imprison demise, locked within Hyrule Castle to contain Calamity Ganon, or locked within the fortress of her own mind as she bathes the Master Sword in golden light. In these instances, this is not only her duty, but her choice, and she's uniquely positioned to endure these choices, voluntarily accepting to recede inside herself, stepping into her own underworld, often alongside demons, and though this ordeal is inward, it is not passive, and though not named, still nothing short of heroic. When Zelda emerges from this underworld, it is with a newfound wisdom, sometimes tangibly. When she transforms back from Sheik, she grants Link the light arrows, and eventually uses her sealing powers along with the other sages and Link's mastery of the sword to seal Ganon. In Wind Waker, she's seen holding the Master Sword before wielding Link's bow and light arrows to once again help defeat Ganondorf. In Twilight Princess, Spirit Tracks, and Breath of the Wild, Zelda and the light arrows are integral to the final fight. And in Tears of the Kingdom, she seemingly overcomes her madness to help Link against Dragon Ganon. In Echoes of Wisdom, she must save Link, restore to him his weapons, before carrying forward this tradition of fighting evil together. In this case, her role as priestess deepens what has been true of her character throughout the series. Other times, her wisdom is intangible, manifesting instead as a choice to stay on the surface and guard the Triforce, to rebuild Hyrule, to gather with the sages to protect Hyrule, and on several occasions, to restore the Triforce and Hyrule. It's important to note that in many of these instances, Link, the quote-unquote hero, does not defeat evil alone, and once evil is defeated, the future of the kingdom is determined by Princess Zelda. So while she doesn't fit the hero or warrior archetype, that by no means reduces her heroism, because evil is not conquered by the warrior or the priestess alone, by courage or wisdom alone, but by both together. The Zelda franchise depicts these archetypes and the three essences of the Triforce literally in the characters of Ganon, Link, and Zelda. Now, I may be in the minority, but my view of the franchise is not merely as electronic entertainment that is fun, though it is, but also as an experience deeply rooted in mythology, with mythological merit to its storytelling, themes, and characters, as told through a modern medium. Mythology's role is to use storytelling to help us find meaning in our own lives. To that end, when I consider the pieces of the Triforce and their associated characters, I don't see separate individuals, but the forces that run through the heart of each of us. As such, Zelda's role as priestess in Echoes of Wisdom not only remains true to her incarnations across time, but to have her be otherwise, or to have her replace Link's warrior role, would be to distort the equilibrium of the series and the very balance of the Triforce itself. Life is not just about having the courage to face the demons we encounter before us, but also about conquering the demons within us. In that regard, Zelda is not the hero, because she transcends that archetype. Without her and the role she plays, we too risk being usurped by our own tyrannical indulgences, our courage corrupted to arrogance. It is only through the balance of wisdom, courage, and power within ourselves that we can unlock our own sacred power.